Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the Advancement Center, and welcome to the continued reading of The Magic of Life, Volume 2, The Next Step by Robert Young. And I continue with Chapter 8. Bill and Heinrich's tour of the ship was intense, and Bill's thirst for knowledge opened Heinrich's eyes to the great intelligence and understanding that could not belong to a simple fisherman. Heinrich's time as the teacher, Willem, on the island of Isles had exposed him to many special people, but Bill's intelligence seemed to be growing at a rate that even Bill had trouble handling. His continuous connection with Suzanne, no matter where she was, seemed to be the support he needed to allow him to fly, and from what Heinrich could see, he was willing to try even that if she agreed. Every aspect of the control and operation of the Pacific Rose and all the similarities that could be found on the Jeremy were permanently engraved somewhere in Bill's persona, to such a degree that he seemed to own the complete concept. The Pacific Rose had not only gained a competent crew member, but an asset that would support its operation for many years to come. Bill felt the sudden movement of the ship and immediately signaled Suzanne to return to the cabin with the children. Her confirmation sent a thrill through his body and once again left a permanent smile on his face. Heinrich had returned to his quarters and was obviously deeply concerned over business matters that were beyond the confines of the Pacific Rose. Fred was the obvious choice for Bill's attention at the present moment. As Bill entered the dining room, he caught Fred's eye and signaled his attention. Fred stopped immediately and entered the room from the port side of the dining area. "They are on their way to the cabin. Did you need me for anything?" Fred yelled from the other side of the room. Bill nodded and walked slowly towards Fred, who was determined not to shift from where he stood. Eventually, Fred relented and met Bill in the middle of the room. "What is it, Bill? You have that urgent look about you again. Did you lose more time?" Fred continued. "I suppose we can talk about it if you want." Bill's smile stopped Fred immediately. "Sorry, Bill, what is it you want?" relented Fred. "Sometimes I can't help myself." Bill quickly responded before Fred could get in another word. "The sudden movement of the ship a few minutes ago was not normal. I am afraid we are in for something different to the normal transition. I think we have external assistance that has just connected us to its tractor beam. You have to stand by and watch the impulse drive to make sure they do not overheat. I will talk to Heinrich, but he will probably be too involved in other ways to help us in any way. I will talk to you on the intercom." "Right, Bill," Fred replied, and started walking away while he was still talking. I felt that movement and never took that much notice, but it was abnormal. Bill checked with Suzanne and then walked to their cabin. Suzanne was so glad to see Bill and jumped up quickly to give him a hug. Samuel and Martha were quick to follow, and Jamie waved from the other side of the room where she was busy entertaining one of her invisible friends. Simeon came to me very strongly when we were looking over the ship, and he had an urgent message. We are being assisted through the transition, and we will arrive in Sydney a day earlier than planned. He said you would know what to do with the message." As Suzanne took a much-needed breath, Bill kissed her and said, "You are an angel. What would I do without you?" Bill left quickly and entered his quarters, which were adjacent to Heinrich's suite. He considered that he had a better chance of talking to Heinrich if he entered via his quarters than if he knocked on the main door. The light was dim, and the small lights on the communication control desk took over the scene. Bill felt a presence in the room, and without turning on a light, said, "Is there anyone in here?" The answer came without hesitation. "Yes, Bill, it's Heinrich. I just got off a call to the mainland, and I'm sitting in the dark, waiting for inspiration." "I'm sorry, Heinrich, but I need to talk to you. Is that okay?" "Sure, Bill. After all, it is your cabin. Sit down and pour yourself a drink. I think we both need one." The darkness gradually disappeared until the console lights were sufficient for Bill to see what he was doing. He poured a drink and sat in the comfort of Heinrich's presence, as he had done on many occasions. The feeling of the teacher, Willem, hovered in the room, waiting for Heinrich's character to withdraw for a moment, but it would not. Heinrich had concerns that could only be handled by his mastery of world affairs, and he was not about to give it to the teacher who existed under the protection of the dimension of the Isles. Bill watched with patience, and suddenly a nudge came from the darkness with a silent reminder. Simeon's message. "Oh, I forgot," blurted Bill, breaking a perfectly good moment of silence. "Suzanne has a message from Simeon. We are being assisted through the transition, and we will arrive in Sydney a day earlier than planned. He said I would know what to do." The short silence that followed was powerful. Bill could feel the energy coming from Heinrich and could hardly wait for his response. Out of nowhere, Heinrich came to life and threw his fists into the air. "Gotcha, you thief, at last." He stood quickly, raised his glass, and said, "To Simeon and everything he does for our worlds." Bill joined in the toast, but could not help finishing what he wanted to pass on to Heinrich. I felt a sudden movement in the ship that was not normal, and I figured out that we were experiencing external assistance, so I asked Fred to stand by the impulse drives and make sure they do not overheat. Then I got the message from Suzanne and came straight here. Is there anything else I have to do? Heinrich sat back down, turned on the desk lamp, and poured another drink. Bill, you have no idea what you have already done. With the help of Simeon, you and your family have achieved the impossible. You have not only accepted and taken on multidimensional living, you are an expert on dimensional transfer and propulsion in an unknown vortex. On top of all that, we have trapped that snake, Alf Hartley, at his own tricks. How do you like that? Bill was stunned at how elated Heinrich had become and couldn't help but join in his mood. Heinrich poured Bill another drink and sat back with a smooth and gentle sigh. "Life is great, you know, Bill. I've been waiting for many years to catch Big Alf at his own games. He has blown it this time." Bill listened intently and enjoyed his drink as Heinrich continued. "When Alf found out that we would be arriving in Sydney in 2 days' time, he knew that we were in transit and not even in a position where we could get alternative transport to get there to object to a backdated offer to take over the control of both this shipping line and voltage docking and handling. The offer is very generous, but the conditions are such that they revert to a fire sale takeover if I am not personally available to attend the group meeting 48 hours after the offer. He backdated the offer so that it was impossible for me to attend and impossible to object within one working day of the issue. It must have cost him a fortune to get that through the legal system. I will now be able to attend the meeting, but before I get there, we will block the flow of all his assets by appointing a receiver to investigate fraud. Every transaction for the last 2 years will be investigated, and nothing major will be allowed to move through any associated investment fund. When I get to the meeting, I will formally accept his generous offer with the same fire sale conditions on his company or companies that he placed on mine. He will not be able to refuse the offer, and he will not be able to use my company assets to raise money to cover his debt. If he raises the money, we will accept and start again. All our ships are privately owned. The people own the township of Norwich, and the shipping line is not listed in Sydney or anywhere else. It is registered but not listed on the stock exchange and therefore cannot be part of a public company takeover. Bill felt Simeon and acted quickly to bring Heinrich back to the present reality. "Heinrich, you have to stop and change direction," said Bill. "I can feel Simeon and you need to be connected to make this transfer run smoothly. Remember, we have the Jeremy following, and you have to decide if you want them with us now or in another transfer opportunity." Chapter 9. Heinrich's eyes sparkled as he made connection with Simeon, and the room lit up with sparkling energy. Bill had never experienced such activity, and the intimate connection that Heinrich had with Simeon was out of this world. Without moving, Heinrich focused on the communications console, and the system came to life with the familiar squawk of a transmitter button press. Jeremy, this is the Pacific Rose, over. Heinrich's voice was clear and professional. Pacific Rose, this is Jeremy. Willie speaking, over. Hi, Willie, this is Heinrich. How are you running? Over. Not bad, Heinrich. I think we are connected into your field. Should we pull back? Over. Willie, how are your instruments showing? We will need you to hold a steady distance. I think we are in for the ride of the century. Over. Sounds great to us, Heinrich. John is giving the thumbs up. He has been detecting the tractor beam for an hour now. We are ready to follow you through and hold you in line if you need us. Over. Heinrich's eyes sparkled even more as he felt the confirmation from Simeon. Simeon is on station. Stand by for the build-up. Over and out. As quickly as the communication console came to life, it shut down, and the sparkling energy in the room faded to reveal the low sheen of the desk lamp as its main focus. Both Bill and Heinrich were spent. The past hour had been intense, and their physical bodies were not accustomed to such high energies. Bill lifted his glass and shouted to Simeon, "May he continue to guide us and keep our family safe." Yes, Heinrich replied with tears in his eyes to Simeon, "May we never falter under his guidance." Sleep came quickly, and the two men disappeared into oblivion to recover from their ordeal. The klaxon horn sounded, and the system alarm lights began flashing. Bill woke with a start and almost jumped on the table, looking for the accept button. Heinrich followed closely and with slow familiarity leaned over and pressed the button. The alarm silenced and the flashing lights went steady. This is it, Bill, exclaimed Heinrich. The power is off. We are on emergency lighting. What do I do now, Heinrich? Bill had lost his orientation after the sudden wake-up and was not sure where he was or what he was doing. Go to your family, Bill, and leave the rest to Simeon and whoever handles that tractor beam for him. Heinrich's words were soothing and easy to absorb. Bill was happy to do exactly what he was told and simply walk next door and be with his family. The adventure had started, and Bill's world would never be the same again. As Bill entered Suzanne's cabin, the lights flickered, bringing a sense of déjà vu. This had just happened a few moments earlier, and the darkness reminded him of his experience with Heinrich. Bill hesitated for a moment, and then the voice of Suzanne encouraged him back to reality. Hi, Bill. We are over here. Isn't this fun? It is, replied Bill, sensing that Suzanne was busy keeping the children happy. Are the lights out everywhere? Asked Suzanne with an uplifting tone. Yes, replied Bill, but we have emergency lighting. Shall I turn it on? We are playing, replied Samuel. Jamie will tell us when the lights can come on. Bill sat down on a long daybed and put his arm around Suzanne. There was enough light from outside, and the unusual quiet took a moment to absorb. No one made a sound. The endearing sound of the impulse drives gradually came into focus, and the almost hypnotic feeling of stability lifted everyone into a state of security that was not normally available. Even the children felt nurtured and totally happy to sit where they were without any need to move. Bill's thoughts disappeared, and he joined with Suzanne in a state of bliss that only came with the presence of Simeon. Time disappeared, and there was nothing to disturb either of them. After what seemed to be hours, Jamie lifted her tiny frame and put one hand in the air. Let there be light, she exclaimed in an angelic voice. Within seconds, the bright rays of morning sunlight burst through the mass of portholes on two walls of their cabin. Everyone came alive immediately and joined in the game that Jamie had set up before the lights went out. You did it, Jamie, exclaimed Suzanne. How could you know the sun would come out? It's not the sun, Mummy. It's the bright star that is taking us to Australia. Simeon showed me a picture and said he'd wake me when it was in place. Bill and Suzanne looked at one another with surprise. Our friends are on the bright star. and we can still talk to them when we are in Sydney. Samuel interjected, and Martha clapped enthusiastically to express her agreement. Before Suzanne could ask any more questions, Jamie jumped on her lap and kept talking. When we are finished our vortex travel, we will see the real sun come in through those portals. Her hand pointed to the other end of the room. The bright star is brighter than the sun and is all around us. It won't hurt your eyes, though. It is a different light to the sun. Simeon said, we can look, but we will not be able to see past the light. They can see us, but we can't see them. Just like a flashlight when it is pointed at you. Jamie was in her element. She enjoyed being the center of focus and was able to pass on her knowledge with an ease and accuracy that engulfed everyone. We are waiting for the earth to move so that the bright star can put us back in the water in a different spot to where the Navy ships are looking. Simeon said it will be a different day as well, and all the clocks and calendars will suddenly change to confuse the authorities. Jamie had settled into her story and sat tall on her mother's lap to make sure she was not tempted to fall asleep. If we fall asleep, we will not remember anything, but if we stay awake, we will remember everything. Simeon said, I could go to sleep if I want, but I think I will stay awake. Jamie's sudden smile indicated that she was finished. The story was complete. Bill had a million questions to ask, but the excitement of the situation silenced his mind, and all he could say was, that's great, Jamie. Thank you. A look of satisfaction came over Jamie's face, and they all sat back and looked into the amazing light that flooded into their quarters. And that's the end of chapter 9. And when I return, we will start with chapter 10 of The Magic of Life, Volume 2, The Next Step by Robert Young. Wishing you, as always, a perfect life, perfect health, and a magic future. Thank you.